So this is my solution for this problem. I can't find the appropriate bolts in my country, so I'll have to make do with what I have. And I have managed to hit out one of these rivets, since it was sheared off on the other side. And this is the hole. It's 9.4 millimeters. I found this M10 Allen head bolt, and it has a grade of 12.9. Just focus right there. Yeah, it's 12.9, and they only had these in Allen head, so I had to take this. Would have been better if I could get a X head, but it was only in a grade 8. So I'm going to use this bolt, and what I've measured is that this bolt is 9.7, so it won't fit in here, it won't press in here, because I'm thinking about getting this machined or just having some sandpaper and putting it in a drill. I believe this will be much stronger than the rivets, because rivets are anyways just pressed down and not really bolted, so they have to be kind of malleable. I measured the thickness of the diff. The depth of this hole is 20 millimeters, and the thickness of the diff is 10 millimeters. And that means that this 10 millimeters of the shaft will be within the bolt, and the other 10 will be within the ring gear. But because this bolt they only had this bolt in a shaft. I mean, this threadless shaft was only in 13, I think. No, 16. Yeah, it's only 16 mils. So that means that no, it's not 16. It's 13 mils. So that means that, damn it, that means that the joint of the diff and the ring gear will be about right there, which is still on the shaft, on the threadless part, so that should still be stronger than the rivets in here. And because of the grade of this bolt, I should be able to get it really tight. So this head is also too long, too high. It's a 10 millimeters high from the shoulder upwards, and it can only clearance about, these are only 6 mil high, and that's because this flange over here is right above this head, and it can only be that high. So I have to get this head machined off as well, and I have to get this shortened as well. So I have to make this diameter of this bolt a little less, from 0.7 to 0.5, so 0.2 mils less, and I have to shorten it. I'm not sure. I'll see how short I will have to make it, but there's a lot of clearance from the diff inwards. As you can see, this is much deeper than the other side. So yeah, that's it. I have to get this machined or cut it myself. I'm thinking of just putting it in a drill, measuring it really well, and having a go at it with a angle grinder. I think that will do it well. I'm also gonna, with the shorter head, I might not have enough space in here to actually get an Allen bolt in, so I have to make sure that it's really tight in the diff and that it don't really need to hold it up here. Alright, so the car is finished, my transmission is finished, it's in the car. It's running and driving. I drove it twice yesterday, since I finished it yesterday, and all works well after rebuilding the transmission at home. So initially what happened is I bought that first transmission over there, but it had a stripped fifth gear. So this is the pinion shaft. As you can see, it meshes over there. This is the pinion shaft, and that pinion shaft had stripped gears right over here. This is where your fifth gear goes on, the driven gear. So I couldn't use that because of the stripped gears. And then what happened is I got this second transmission, which is an older transmission. It's a 4T, which is written right here. Okay, 4T. So it looks like it's a. And to strengthen mine was I removed the rivets. Here they are, all the rivets. I just drilled them out, hammered them off on the side, hammered them off, and installed the diff bolts. Initially they machined these diff bolts and they didn't fit as tight as I wanted them. I wanted them to be press fit, and they were just loosely fit. As you can see there, it just drops right in, which is not how it's supposed to fit. So I had them, so I bought another set of bolts and machined them over again. I tested these bolts to see if they would hold the torque. This is one I machined at home with a drill and a angle grinder. I just machined it down and machined the heads off as well. See, this is the same bolt. I just put it in the drill and machined it off like a lathe would. I didn't want them to do it because I was trying to save some money, and I also shortened them all to exactly the same length. I was using the same technique, putting it in a drill in an angle grinder. And so I tested these bolts. I just hammered them through the ring because I wasn't using this ring. Just hammered them through, or hammered this one through, and I torqued it on the other side with these machined off threads to see if these slightly machined threads would hold the torque, and they did quite well. So on the new diff, I just installed them and I just pushed them through. I hammered them through, not directly, using something in between to keep them from mushrooming. So I hammered them through. You should probably use a press if you have access to one. And after that, I just loaded them up with Loctite and torqued them to 7 Newton meters. Some tips on this transmission reassembly. I forgot this this spring in my car. The spring goes right in this transmission. There is also slightly broken over here. The reverse shaft goes in here, and it broke it off a bit. You can see how this magnet looks. It's full of fourth gear and ring and pinion. Yep. So this spring goes in right over here. It goes at the end. Wait, there is a spring already in there. This is my spring I forgot to put in. There is a spring in there. Don't forget to put the spring in. The spring is at the end of the selector, right at the bottom, where it pushes in that hole. And these little tensioners which go into these grooves over there. These little tensioners which go into this groove have to be aligned with the synchro in the back, with the synchro rings. So don't try and force that over, don't hammer it. I did that and destroyed one set of those. The selector goes into this barrel right here. This selector, you have to use the one according to your transmission case, because these differ in this hole over here, this slot over here. The bolt size differs from transmissions, so you have to use this right selector according to your case. Yeah, that's about it. I just I kept the gasket on mine because the preload was within spec. I just felt it was quite tight, so not really in spec, but tight enough. I kept the gasket, put on silicone. If your diff is a little loose while it's in there, if it moves up and down when torqued down with the top half. If it's a little loose, you can remove the gasket, and then it would remove some of the play. But ideally, you would just replace the bearings if you have the money for that. Yeah, so now I'm gonna rebuild. I'm gonna build the second transmission on the side because that one is still quite damaged in the ring and pinion area. I'm gonna build the second transmission on the side, and this one goes out, which is in the car right now. I'll just put that one